So I'm going to speak in French, I'm sorry, we're here in the French consulate. Madame la députée, chère présidente du groupe d'amitié France-Brésil, monsieur le président de Michelin, monsieur le directeur général du bureau français du Pacte mondial, merci beaucoup, mesdames et messieurs, de votre présence ce matin ici au Consulat général de France à Rio de Janeiro. C'est évidemment un très grand honneur pour moi d'accueillir cet événement au consulat, et plus précisément dans cet espace de la Bibliomaison, dont nous sommes si fiers, 10 ans après la signature de l'accord de Paris, mais aussi 33 ans après le sommet de la Terre, qui avait, évidemment, vous vous en souvenez tous, eu lieu ici à Rio, qui avait marqué la naissance de la Convention cadre des Nations Unies sur le changement climatique et, de fait, avait fait émerger les prémices d'une gouvernance mondiale sur les sujets du climat et de la biodiversité. Et je me permettrai même d'ajouter que cette réunion se tient une semaine après un moment qui a été important pour la ville de Rio de Janeiro, avec non seulement le C40 qui a réuni la plupart des maires de grandes villes mondiales et de gouverneurs et de présidents d'un certain nombre d'institutions locales, mais également de 35 autres grands événements liés à la lutte contre le changement climatique, dont l'événement qu'on a eu l'honneur d'organiser avec Business France à l'Argent, que je remercie encore beaucoup, faisant de Rio une des capitales des négociations climatiques, en tout cas démontrant la capacité de cette ville à organiser des grands événements sur cette thématique. Donc vraiment, bravo une fois encore d'avoir choisi Rio. Je crois que l'affluence de nos auditeurs aujourd'hui démontre combien c'est un sujet qui intéresse. Donc nous avons la COP30 a débuté il y a quelques jours, vous avez pu le noter dans la communication publique. Le gouvernement brésilien veut faire de cette COP une COP du concret, de la mise en œuvre d'un certain nombre d'actions contre le changement climatique. Ils insistent notamment sur l'idée intéressante d'un multirao global, faisant référence à un terme indigène tupi, qui désigne une mobilisation solidaire de toutes les énergies, sans autorité supérieure pour parvenir à un but. Et donc dans ce multirao, le secteur privé a évidemment toute sa place, et alors que de grandes puissances polluantes ne tiennent pas forcément leurs engagements climatiques, il est d'autant plus important que les entreprises s'engagent. Alors le Brésil est un lieu particulièrement propice à cet engagement, tant il concentre à la fois un certain nombre de solutions à la crise environnementale, mais aussi un certain nombre de défis à relever. Il dispose ainsi de toutes les ressources énergétiques possibles et imaginables, fossiles mais aussi renouvelables. Il contient le poumon de la planète, évidemment l'Amazonie, menacée malgré un ralentissement de la déforestation dont on peut tous se féliciter. Il accueille aussi des peuples autochtones dont la protection est essentielle et la voix doit être écoutée, et c'était le thème principal de la réunion que nous avons eue la semaine dernière avec le prince de Galles, qui a lancé une grande initiative ici à Rio pour protéger et en tout cas renforcer les protections des peuples autochtones en Amazonie. Vous le voyez ici, les réussites sont une vitrine pour le monde. Donc les entreprises françaises ont évidemment dans ce contexte une carte à jouer, à la fois pour se distinguer et entraîner les autres par l'exemple. Leur histoire avec le Brésil se construit sur le long terme. Alors, je crois que Monsieur le Président, vous nous en parlerez dans quelques instants, mais j'ai aussi en tête naturellement Alstom, et puis en tête tous les efforts et l'activité intense des entreprises françaises ici sur le sol brésilien, sachant que quasiment 600 000 Brésiliens travaillent pour une entreprise française de manière directe. C'est un chiffre évidemment extrêmement important, avec une présence partout, sur tout le territoire et dans tous les milieux. Ces investissements sont particulièrement importants dans le domaine de la transition écologique, à l'instar par exemple de Morpho, qui travaille sur les projets de restauration des forêts à grande échelle, ou d'un certain nombre de projets de grandes entreprises. La France est évidemment là pour les accompagner en ce sens, avec ses bras armés financiers comme l'est l'AFD, qui investit massivement dans la bioéconomie, mais aussi avec l'IRD, qui a lancé le Centre franco-brésilien de biodiversité amazonienne en 2024. Les bonnes initiatives sont légion dans ce secteur, porté par le privé. Il faut en parler, mais il faut aussi aller plus loin que la RSE ou le reporting ESG. Et il faut passer à l'échelle les expérimentations ayant fonctionné, penser de nouveaux modèles économiques. Et je pense que les échanges que vous pourrez porter aujourd'hui à ce jour seront extrêmement utiles en ce sens. Donc vraiment, bons travaux, merci beaucoup pour votre présence et puis bonne préparation de la COP puisque je sais qu'un certain nombre d'entre vous se rendront dans quelques jours, dans quelques heures à Belém. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So we had the French speech, now we will have the Portuguese speech. Thanks to Céline Avieux. So Céline, she is the French Member of Parliament, and she's also the chair of the French-Brazilian Friendships Group. And so you will speak in Portuguese. So thank you so much.
Vou tentar. Bom dia a todas e todos. Eu estou muito feliz de estar aqui com você hoje, Senhor Cônsul Talon, Senhor Presidente Menego, Senhor Pedersen, Senhora Cœur de Roi, caras colegas. É uma grande alegria, é uma honra para mim, como presidente do Grupo de Amizade France-Brasil e deputada francesa de uma mãe brasileira e um pai francês, de estar aqui com você hoje. Sinto-me especialmente feliz de ver aqui reunidos aqueles que no dia a dia dão vida à cooperação entre os dois países, empresário, investidor, inovador e protagonista do projeto para o futuro. Nossas nações compartilham uma antiga amizade, construída sobre o respeito mútuo e também a confiança. Mas essa amizade é também hoje profundamente voltada para o futuro. No mundo em transformação, França e o Brasil têm muito a ganhar, a fortalecer seus laços econômicos, a incentivar a inovação conjunta e a construir respostas concretas para o grande desafio, como a transição ecológica, claro, mas a soberania alimentar também, desenvolvimento sustentável dos territórios. Nossas trocas econômicas já são muito sólidas. Mais de 900 empresas francesas estão instaladas no Brasil, representando mais de 500 mil empregos direto e indireto. E, em contrapartida, as empresas brasileiras encontram na França um terreno fértil também para investir e criar e inovar. Mas podemos ir ainda mais longe. Juntos, podemos fazer dessa cooperação um instrumento estratégico para o crescimento de nossas economias e para a geração de emprego em ambos os lados do Atlântico. Como parlamentar, nosso papel é facilitar essas trocas, ouvir suas necessidades e apoiar as iniciativas que reforçam nossas relações bilaterais. O Grupo de Amizade France-Brasil, que eu tenho a honra de presidir, está plenamente comprometido com essa missão. Construir pontes, promover a compreensão mutual e apoiar aqueles que no terreno dá corpo à cooperação franco-Brasil. Quero concluir, agradecemos pela presença hoje, pelo compromisso. Vocês são os protagonistas de uma relação viva, confiante e voltada para o futuro entre nós dois países. Desejar a todos um seminário rico, inspirador e frutífero. Muito obrigada.
Thank you, Céline. And now we are pleased to have Florent Menego. So Florent is the CEO of Groupe Michelin and also the chair of the Global Compact France, Pacte Mondial France, the same. Thank you so much, Florent, for your opening remarks.
Thank you. So we'll use the third language to talk to you. So, estou muito feliz de estar com vocês. Je suis très heureux d'être avec vous aujourd'hui. I'm very pleased to be with all of you today. Thank you for coming so numerously. So, Mr. General Consul, Madame Deputy, dear member companies, dear partners, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much once again to be in this beautiful city, Rio de Janeiro, for this private sector action towards sustainable transition. So, today we mark the beginning of the COP30 in Belém. We are part of the Global Compact delegation, and Michelin will be also present to discuss about pressing issues, because despite what we think the world is still moving, and the issues on the social, environmental are still there. We may decide not to see them, but they are still there. So we have to show a shared determination to solve the issues that human beings have created, and we need to resolve them. So we just have to be conscious of that. So at UNGC and French network, we are present and we will be conveying this message. Brazil, I have two hats today. I'm both chairman of the Global Compact and both as well chairman of Michelin. So Brazil is a key country for Michelin, and we've been there for many, many years, now for decades. We've been happily a member of the development of Brazil. Our business relations with Brazil goes back 100 years, and we like long-lasting relationships. And today we run 9 different industrial activities around the country. We have one R&D center, and we employ more than 8,000 people here, and all of the Michelin Group activities are represented here in Brazil. So we look forward for a rich development of Brazil, and we are sponsoring and we are champions of Brazil and French development here. And I've been living in Brazil many years ago, and it's always a very nice experience. So now for the world, Brazil is also very important. It's also a very special place for all of us as human beings, and we should remember that. Amazonia is essential to the preservation of climate balance, and every damage to it accelerates the climate change. Brazil is the country with the richest biodiversity in the world, and Brazil plays a key diplomatic role in the international climate negotiations. Yet, like all of the countries in the world and at a variety of levels, Brazil is already hit by the consequences of climate change. I was struck by watching the news a few days ago about the tornadoes that arrived in Brazil. I've been living in Brazil for many years, and I never seen tornadoes of that magnitude in Brazil. And we have tornadoes as well in France, and these are signals that things are moving, changing, and we should pay attention to it. And we can no longer deny this reality. Whether we like it or not is a different subject, but we just have to face it, and it's there. So I believe that the private sector is and will be part of the solution. Our corporate, business, and industrial activities must evolve to align with the limits of the planet boundaries. But the good thing is that in the private sector, in the industries, we develop the solutions that are going to help solve the problem. It's not by degrowing or renouncing to what has helped the world be what it is today. It is by developing the technologies that are going to help solve the issues so that we can have a more harmonious development of where we can develop more wealth for everyone. At the same time, we're reducing the impact on the environment so that all human beings can develop and live. So let's take the example of the deforestation linked to natural rubber for Michelin. It's an issue that is resonating in Brazil. And we've been discussing that with our teams earlier this morning. And for more than 20 years, you should know that Michelin has been committed to making the natural rubber supply chain more sustainable. There is a special mushroom that could kill all rubber trees. That has been developed here in Brazil. And you should know that rubber trees have been actually exported out of Brazil to the rest of the world, and in Asia especially. So this mushroom only is present in Brazil today, but if that mushroom were to develop in Asia or in Africa, it would kill the entire rubber trees in the world, which would be a disaster for the development of all our businesses, because rubber plays a very important role in many different industries around the world. So today, 98% of the natural rubber that Michelin uses for doing its activities is deforestation free. And we have developed many activities to make sure of that. And plus we have found a new species of natural rubber that will resist that famous mushroom that could kill the rubber harvest in the world. So environmental and social considerations are strongly linked, and we must address both of them to succeed. So this approach led us to implement a living wage on a worldwide basis for all employees across the world. And the issue of wealth repartition is a key component of our development in the future. The worst thing that can happen in the world for the environment or for human beings is war. And if you do not take care of the way you split the wealth created around the world, this may lead inevitably to war. And war is the worst thing that can happen to the environment and that can happen to human beings. So we are playing our role at Michelin just to make sure that we find a way to make sure that everyone gets a benefit from the development. So Michelin has also joined the Juntos pela Amazônia program. We're aiming at preserving the Amazon forest while generating income for local communities. So the thing is to tap the rubber trees that exist naturally in the Amazon forest and to use that rubber to develop our business. The magnitude of the challenges ahead of us calls for strong alliance also and partnership. We were discussing this morning with our teams the concept of co-opting, so cooperating with your competition. There are subjects where we have to compete. There are other subjects where you have to cooperate with your competition. And it's not easy, but the pressing issues we have to face forces us to cooperate with our competition. These kind of alliances are necessary so that we can progress faster. And it's the same, by the way, with public and private sector. It's the same with, we have to collaborate between corporations and NGOs, amongst NGOs, amongst corporations, so that we can find ways to develop faster solutions to resolve issues that we have created. And yet, the fragmentation is the key pressing problem of our societies. And social cohesion is really a key issue that all societies, but also corporations, have to face. And it's a challenging context now, and I believe that companies can help strengthen social cohesion. And it is precisely also the mission of the UN Global Compact activities to foster better collective action and deepen the dialogue. And dialogue is essential. Not social networks. Dialogue is very different from social networks. If you want, we can talk about it. And once again, thank you all for being here today. Thank you for your commitment, and have a good day with all of us. Thank you.
So first, Gillian, maybe a few words about the Chamber of Commerce. Maybe people know more about Crédit Agricole, but not even sure that everyone knows. So just a few words, Chamber of Commerce, because this is the...
Few words. Bom dia a todos e a todas. A few words, yes, on Chamber of Commerce. I'm representing the Chamber of Commerce of São Paulo. I'm vice president and treasurer since May this year. The Chamber of Commerce is globally on Brazil, getting 540 members, and we are celebrating 125 years in Brazil. So For us, it's very, very important, and all the relationship between, we are fostering on a regular basis, every day, all relationship between France and Brazil. I'm also CEO of the corporate investment bank of Groupe Crédit Agricole. We are based in São Paulo, and we are working with large Brazilian corporates, but also and mainly with multinationals of clients of the Groupe Crédit Agricole, and 1/3 is French. So French, we have a lot of French clients, and also financial institutions that are mainly Brazilian. We are covering all the sectors that are important for our companies: energy, metals and mining, infrastructures, and sanitation, all activities. The Groupe Crédit Agricole is engaged in net zero alliance and committed to reduce. But we publish targets on some polluting sectors, and we have the same policy here. We are gradually phasing out of oil and gas extraction, and we are paying great attention to deforestation. But on the other side, we are investing a lot in renewable energy. And just to give you a figure, in 2024, the Groupe Crédit Agricole, when disengaged €4 from fossil fuel investment, was engaging €14 in new renewable energy. So just to give you an idea.
Thank you for this introduction. And Crédit Agricole is participant to the Global Compact in France, for sure. Sandrine, so a few words about Sanofi. I'm not so sure you have to introduce the Global Compact because Florent already did it. But
So Sanofi is a pharma company, international corporation. So we are spread all over the world. So we have location everywhere. But more importantly, we are delivering medicines everywhere in the world, in more than 300 countries. So we have a very long supply chain, and so we are clearly involved in a sustainability approach, which is also fully integrated in the business strategy of the company. It's not a cherry on the cake, it's clearly embedded and so fully aligned, validated by the board and by the executive committee, very important. It's about, so you mentioned net zero, so we are trying to reach net zero by 2045, meaning carbon neutral by 2030. So we are looking at our supply chain, value chain, and so to reduce the environmental footprint, including climate of our activities in the world, but also our products. But we are also looking on adaptation to climate on our business activities, and so trying to answer the questions important. What about vaccines with a cold chain if temperature is rising by 2, 4, 10 degrees? What about the stability of medicine because of the rise of temperature? And so we are working on that topic. But also importantly, what most of governments are not fully hearing is that the impact of the environment on the health of population. And so there is a triple crisis in front of us today about pollution and particularly air quality. There is climate change and biodiversity loss has a huge impact on the health of population and the healthcare system adaptation as well. So this is things that we are looking, and so we are developing some interesting programs, so we will have time to develop a little bit more.
yeah.
I think later.
And thank you, Sandrine. As you are also in charge of the foundation for the moment, we will be happy to have a keyword this afternoon about social justice and climate change, because I know this is a huge program for the foundation, Sanofi Foundation, but it's not the topic from this morning.
Yes, so we are fully aligned with Sanofi, with the business on climate and health, and with the foundation, with the last mile or complementary action on that topic as well.
Thank you. So, Alexandre, a few words about what you are doing at the embassy, and you will be able to explain a little bit later on the roundtable.
Yes, of course. Thank you. So I'm Alexandre. I'm working here in Rio in the consulate, and I'm working for the French embassy. I'm economic counselor, which means I depend on the Ministry of Economy in France. And we have a team here with, well, my boss is in Brasilia, and we have 2 small antennas in São Paulo and here in Rio. And why Rio especially? Because we have a lot of energy and mining companies which are still based here, and so I'm working more specifically on these issues. And we're working, like being economic counselor, we're working on institutional aspects where we have an ecosystem of economic relations with the Chamber of Commerce, with also Business France, which is more responsible of the commercial relations, and they are as well in Rio and São Paulo.
Thank you. I would like to start this this roundtable this morning with a shared question for all of you. The first question would be: COP30 has begun. Is there any particular significance for your businesses, and of course for you, Laurent, not for business but for the embassy? And more specifically, does it impact your business operation in Brazil here, for both of you as corporate representative? Gillian, first, maybe?
No, this COP is as every COP, very, very important. As I mentioned, as a green bank, it's for us it's very important. Our global head of sustainability will participate to the event and will participate to a panel in the Pavillon France. But what I want to emphasize here is that I read a lot of articles saying that the banks, and I'm taking my hat of financial institution, everything will depend on financing, but it's true that we can do more, but we cannot be the only part of the solution. And I think it's really a collective responsibility. We need to work on frameworks that will be more open to blended finance, mixing finance, public finance and private finance, to de-risk some projects, because it's most of the time it's one of the hurdles of not financing more. But I think this will be a very interesting COP for this, because we need to find a framework and solution to bring more financing here in Brazil. And just to give also a message, because we released four days ago an information that the Groupe Crédit Agricole structured for IDB the first social Amazonia bond, and $100 million to help protect the forest, fight against deforestation, and also help local communities to develop sustainable activities. So it's for us, it's a very important event.
We would be happy if you could share with us after more information about the social Amazonian bond, and maybe we should highlight in the Global Compact website. And you will be happy to know also that we will launch a working group on blended finance in France. So if Crédit Agricole want to be part of that initiative and dynamic, we will be happy to have you on board. Sandrine, as a corporate, maybe also with your hat from the Global Compact Network France, why this COP is important according to you?
So I think this COP is important because we are 10 years after the COP Paris Agreement, and we heard a lot in the last 10 years, or 11 years, because COVID year is not counting, but so a lot of promise, I think, about funding, and so a lot of engagement, and so backlash as well that we are facing due to certain governments or certain geographies. I feel that the way that the COP, the theme of the COP is turning negotiation into action is really key, absolutely. We heard so much pledge, so much policies, so much, I used to say blah blah, now it's important to turn into action and to implement really what will happen. So this COP is important thanks to the title of the COP. I think that I hope that we will make a big shift in order to implement the north and the south part with indigenous population, and I think the Belém COP is a very good signal for the international community, because in Amazonia, indigenous population, and so first in terms of access to healthcare, which is one of the first human right fundamental, it's absolutely key. We have now a health day at COP. We pushed in COP in Egypt to have this day because there is a city days, a transportation days, and blah blah, financing days, but no health day. Now it's done. For the first time, we will have a health day at COP. It's very important. I think that the role of the Global Compact here, I'm taking my hat of board member, is absolutely key because we have different levels. First, we have the UN Global Compact defining the different framework that we use as international company in order to speak the same language. And it is important. And the 11th, 17th SDGs are key in order to shape our policy and to speak this common language everywhere in the world. So it's very good for our suppliers, governments, but also communities to mention those SDGs, and so we are converging to work all together with partners on that. And particularly for France, I must say, Niels, that I'm very proud to be part of this board. So you didn't know I will say that, and it's not téléphoné as we say in French. But so because we are the first leading network in UN, and so working in partnership with Brazil Global Compact, the second one, if I remember well. And so you are making a great job with your team because you are everywhere at COP in different international movements, UNGA in New York, and I think this is important to showcase the importance of the Global Compact in this kind of event at the COP to demonstrate that it's super important to every company, every NGOs, every academics to reach and so to converge with the SDGs. So if we do not understand that, I think that as a sustainability head in big corporation, we lose something.
Thank you, Sandrine, for your words. So just to be clear, so the UN Global Compact, in French it's Pacte Mondial, in Portuguese it's Pacto Global, I think. I look at you. It's the same organization with different words. It's part of the UN system. That's why we are also using the SDGs, and that's why we are so focused on the 10 principles of the Global Compact. And that's also why, as a multi-stakeholders, we are happy to have the French embassy, because we are working a lot with the Foreign Affairs Minister in France. I think this is the first minister we are talking to every day, more than Bercy and the economical minister of the ecological minister. So thank you so much for being there here this morning. And so what for you, as the French embassy representative, this COP is important?
This COP, this Amazon COP is very important for us. We want specifically this COP to be a success. Obviously, Mr. Menego mentioned the importance of the Amazon being a common good we have to preserve. I have to add that the Amazon is also a shared space. Also with France, having Guyana here at the site, so I think we have a specific responsibility on making this COP a success, and then seeing it from Brazil. Well, Mr. Consul mentioned France is the second investor here in Brazil. We have companies in every sector. All the big companies are here. I think 38 of the 40 companies of the CAC 40 are here. And so we have a specific impact on the territory. I mean, in infrastructure, energy, banks. We are de facto implied in the changes here in Brazil, and so we have a specific responsibility to preserve also this common good, which is the Amazon. And we were pleased to see, since I arrived a few months ago, so I don't have the big picture, but to see that there are a lot of great initiatives made by French companies to preserve the Amazon. I'm thinking about Schneider Electric, which has a great partnership with the Fundação Amazônia Sustentável. Of course, the example mentioned of Michelin. We have smaller companies like Solamas, which is a little company which builds solar panels in isolated grids.
Thank you. Just for people on the back, if you want to have chit-chats, could you please go outside? Because it might be disturbing for people just in front of you. Sorry to disturb you on the back, but it's disturbing on the front. Sorry for that. But we'll be happy to have discussion with you later. So Gillian, from your experience with the French and the Brazilian companies, what are the main challenges they face when adapting the sustainability approaches to the Brazilian context? I know when we prepared this roundtable a few weeks ago, you insist on the fact that the Brazilian company might have more of, and I quote you, an American business culture. So could you expand on that and what it means for sustainability?
Alors, regarding our French companies, I think the regulatory framework is key. Most of the time, even if we are not speaking about ESG, it's Brazil is known for a complex regulatory framework on a fiscal, legal point of view. But on ESG, I think that we are not so mature as Europe or America, and we need to accelerate this, especially regarding the taxonomy. The Brazilian government is working on ESG taxonomy, but it stay at its early stage, and we need to accelerate because it's important to have comparables. It's important to have more transparency, and it will attract more trust and investment in Brazil. We are also waiting more progress on carbon market, private carbon market, because usually, for the time being, we are using only, we know only individual experiences, and we need an organized and formal carbon market. And also for hydrogen or SAF, biofuel, they are still missing some regulation that will help our company to accelerate investment. I think what is also important that the mother company are supporting them, because if they are insisting on ESG guidelines, it helps them, because sometimes you are facing some competition, and you should not think about profitability at the detrimental to ESG concept. So I think it's important to have the support of the mother company. And last topic where Brazil needs to make progress is on training, education about ESG topics. And that's why in the SV COP30 there was a specific topic where we participated with the chair of Schneider Electric that was regarding green skills and green jobs, because this is also important to invest in training and new skills.
Maybe on the American business culture compared to the European culture, can you explain that?
No, I think that the large Brazilian corporates are investing a lot in ESG to have a cleaner business. All the big ones are really are producing high standards of ESG. I was referring more to the financial aspects, because again, it's linked to regulation. Framework is very heavy. You have to produce a very important documentation when you're making a sustainable linked loan. You need to define all your framework, the KPI you're going to respect. You need to invest also in external rating, so it's costly. So sometimes they are saying, is it worth the case? And as we are in a mood influenced by America, where it's less important, we see a tendency of reducing a little bit the recourse to sustainable and green financing. And that's this we need to be careful. Even if investors are still looking for this kind of bonds that are sustainable linked, so we really need to insist on that. And on the other hand, I think that the financial institution, the Brazilian financial institution, are very paying a lot of attention to finance themselves with sustainable loans. So it's positive. And ultimate point I would like to emphasize, I think that the most prepared companies need to help the smallest. And for instance, when some big companies are leading a supply chain, I think they need to help all the suppliers that are working for them to benefit from their ability to develop ESG. Unless we will have a two-speed development, and it will not help accelerate the transformation.
So you will be happy because this is also the job of the Global Compact, and we have a specific program for suppliers. So that's a nice way to join if you're not already a participant of the Global Compact. And you also highlight the fact that companies need the support of their headquarters from France, and we will be able to discuss about that this afternoon. So stay this afternoon to have more information about that with Isabelle and many different speakers. Sandrine, so your turn. Thanks to you, your company has a global sustainability roadmap, so you know it perfectly well. And a few minutes ago, you also emphasized that people need to articulate global to local. And so how do you do in your job as the global leader on sustainable issue to be sure that your global commitment are translated to the local level, and particularly in regions like Amazonia? First question. And how do partnerships with local communities, suppliers or government help ensure that sustainability initiatives are both credible and impactful? You have 5 minutes.
Wow, I will try to make it in 5 minutes. So I think that as a pharma health or global healthcare leader, we have two important points. The first is, as I mentioned, at Sanofi, we have embedded our sustainability strategy in the strategy of the company, fully aligned with the business. It's not a cherry on the cake. And so we are convinced, and this is the way that we are living sustainability. It creates value for the business, it creates value for society and patients, and also for the environment. So it's completely a shared value creation. Having that in mind, we need to convince everyone this is the case, and so this is the work we are making. If I may say, I would say I'm lucky, even if the situation is not good, as we are focusing not just on the environment, but on equitable and sustainable access to care, not access to medicine. More than 2 billion people in the world have no access to quality medicine and care. So yesterday I had discussion with my peer in Brazil. They told me in Amazonia, young children until 10 years old have never met a healthcare professional. So we can see that there is a big gaps, and unfortunately by this turbulent world, the gaps is rising so much, creating more poverty, more discrimination, leading to increasing human rights issues, and so not having access to essential services such as care, education, water, and so on. So this is where we are focusing our sustainability strategy, and it is everywhere in the world. I mentioned Amazonia because we are in Brazil, but very honestly, you are going in Paris or in suburban Paris, you have the same situation with vulnerable population not having access to care. So when you are discussing with our representative all over the world, there is no doubt on that. We need to move forward. It's not a matter of regulation, it's a matter of DNA. That plus integration in the corporate strategy are very helpful for that. When we are discussing with suppliers, it's another story. Our value chain is across the world as well, and so we are starting to focus mainly on environmental part, not just only on climate, because making a focus on climate might lead to making mistakes, and particularly where you are designing products. I know by experience that when you are improving your products to improve the CO2 footprint, in fact you may degrade water footprint or biodiversity footprint. So we need to have this global picture. This is why we have worked to develop some framework with our competitors, and Florent mentioned that earlier, that we are in competition, but in some matters we need to work together in order to develop those framework and tools that will be used everywhere in the world by all the pharma industry and academics and so on. This is absolutely key. And to engage our value chain and suppliers in the world. When you are discussing on energy, for example, renewable energy in some countries, it's very difficult. What we are doing, we engage, but we support. It's not just to say you have to decrease by 50% your fossil energy, but we recommend to decrease and we will help you. Once again, with Sanofi we started, and so we have recently created a coalition with the support of Schneider Electric, but also some other companies, in order to develop a network of PPA, power purchase agreement for those who know that, in order to support our suppliers in that way. So it's very critical in order to engage, but to engage a dialogue, not just having a customer, a supplier's relationship, but so co-creating together. And very often what I see by experience is that those suppliers are bringing innovation to us. We didn't so that it's possible. So they come and we co-design, and so we implement. We implement locally and we implement at scale. So you mentioned governments as well. I mentioned earlier that some governments do not believe that there will be a crisis, health crisis in the future because of the environment or because of the decrease of number of healthcare professionals. This is what we want to achieve as well, because it's part of our DNA to save lives, to save patients. This is very important to educate them, to discuss with them, and to showcase by real-world evidence. The importance of data is absolutely key here in order to showcase the link. And so we have very, very strong evidence that it is now, it's urgent to move forward now and not to wait for, because the problem will be in the future. So creating this narrative with governments that are starting to ask more and more questions on sustainability approach, and we force the debate with them on that way in order to educate governments and institutions. Coming back on communities, because that was the last point, I think. Coming back on communities, we are working a lot with communities. We can come back this afternoon on that. And so we are co-designing with communities, because when you are delivering products, and so we have an organization at Sanofi which is named Global Health Unit, that delivering products in the countries, but also building capabilities in order to support access to care, but we are building that with the community itself. Because depending on the culture, depending on the country, it might be totally different. This is where we need to move with them to build. They are in the driving seat. We have no advice to give them. They know what they need. And so we are here to support. So this is also important, and so we are working on the effect on climate change on their health. And so particularly in Amazonia, we have different initiatives with indigenous communities. We are partnering with Fiocruz, we are partnering with CNI, and some others in order to make it happen, because alone we won't achieve. We need some friends and partners in order to make it happen. I think it was more than 5 minutes, sorry for that.
Yeah, and I will have more questions for you, but after.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Sandrine. Alexandre, from a French perspective, how do you see the challenges that the French businesses are facing here in Brazil regarding sustainability, particularly in terms of climate change and energy? And would you like to share with the audience how the French embassy supports companies in addressing this issue? Sandrine highlighted the fact that companies need a lot of support, so how do you do here in Brazil as a French embassy representative?
Yes, well, on the first issue, the challenges faced by French companies here in Brazil as to sustainability, I'd say that the first thing is that easy for us as an embassy and as French institutionals to talk about our companies and to show that they are very compliant with Brazilian sustainability priorities, because their way of developing in Brazil has been so specific. They have so the consul mentioned earlier, but a lot of companies here have a big history with Brazil, because also the country has a way of being a bit closed economically. They have built value chains here and creating jobs, and most of them are considered as Brazilian companies. If you see even the Michelin, for instance, I think a lot of Brazilians consider it as a Brazilian company in a way. But it's the same for ainsi or other companies, and well, that obviously that makes it they build here, the jobs are here, and so there's a local tradition that makes that it's compliant with the environment. Then there's the energy and maybe that's more my sector, but on the energy sector and climate issues. What we see is our companies, the French companies, are at the forefront of the energy transition. The first electricity producer, private electricity producer in Brazil is French. It's ainsi, and our companies are the first investors in the renewables in the northeast of the country, with more than 50 billion reais invested in the last 10 years. So we're there, but there are some great challenges as well. Only talking about energy, one of the, just to give an example, but it's an example that has been trouble in our relationship with Brazil, is the issue of curtailment. I won't be long, but just to explain that, the energy transition has been very strong here in Brazil, and the renewables have their growth has been very strong in the last 10, 20 years. Like the solar panels, they've arrived. The production of electricity by solar panels has gained more than 500% in the last 10 years. So it's a crazy development, and the French have taken their part in this development. But that's kind of the logic that I see here, is that Brazilian has taken advantage of every opportunity in this field. So it's a massive energy transition in every field. But there are consequences, and the development of the energy transitions can be a bit chaotic, and so the offer has become so strong that the demand can't absorb it, and the networks to vehicle this energy have not been properly built. So the consequence is that today the regulator won't buy the renewable energy, but will refuse to buy renewable energy. But on the same side, they're buying thermal energy, which comes from gas generation, and so it's compromising the energy transition here. So but you have these type of contradictions in every field, and I think it's part of also of the dynamic. And here it leads me to the third point, is that of course we have as a government a role to lead. We have to try to resolve these kind of issues. We have to promote what French companies are doing, which is already very which is pretty incredible, and then what we can also do is what you were talking about, building partnerships. I think we're here to also not to reproduce what sometimes happens in France, where big companies go alone and don't talk to each other, and don't talk to small companies, because it's harder for smaller companies who have innovative solutions to come to Brazil as well. So we can work on that. We can work with research, with universities. It's our job to do that. And then the third point is financial support, of course. Here we have the French Agency for Development, which has a particularly great involvement here in Brazil. But we also have smaller funds. I'm thinking about a private fund that private company fund that we're holding at the French Ministry of Economy, which we use to finance small prototypes projects from French businesses, and we're working, for instance, on the production of hydrogen here near Bahia. We're working on financing, how do you say, street solar lights in isolated places of Brazil. So yeah, we have a panel of solutions, and of course I was talking, there's also Business France, which is working more with smaller companies and which is doing a great job here as well.
Thank you so much. Sandrine, back to you. When we were listening to you, how you implemented the global vision to the local realities, it seems quite easy. I'm sure it's not, but it's nice to listen to you the way you describe. So, what would be the advice you would give to the other French companies seeking to reconcile the global energy standards with the local expectation? How to share advice and best practices?
Global must not seen as, in sustainability, global must not seen as just a policy makers, but so as a partner in order to deploy in countries and added value in local affiliates. So speaking, demonstrating, convincing is absolutely key. Unfortunately, in Europe, we are known because of the huge amount of regulation, and most of countries thought that it's because of regulation that we need to engage in sustainability, and which is not the case at Sanofi. As once again, it's fully embedded in our strategy. We are convinced it creates value for the business, for society and patients, and this is a message that we need to convey. So this is not, it looks like easy when I'm speaking about that, but it's not at all. And so we need to engage with local governments, with local institutions, with local regulators in order to achieve our commitments. And this is very difficult, very hard in some countries, and particularly in that world, where there is some kind of backlash in different countries or a political population, if I may say. So we need to pay attention to adapt to local culture, to the local regulation, and so continuing to create, as you confirm that, creating local partnership with companies that have the same view on sustainability is absolutely key. So, but it's a day-to-day work, it's not so easy. And this is where the Global Compact local organization can help to deliver the right message. And this kind of event is one example of what is possible to discuss. And with a new initiative to engage with suppliers at Pacte Mondial Réseau France, it's also a way to convince our value chain of the importance and once again build, co-design, implement together, create some partnership, public and private coalition to move forward together.
It's interesting to see that we move from the sustainable policy from the company to how to work with the supply chain. And it's, I think, a new challenge for all of us, not only to work with your company the best as you can, but also how to embark your value chain. And this is also one of the key programs we will work on next year with all the colleagues from the...
But you know, if I may, it's also making savings. Because when you are working with suppliers, you are working differently, you are innovating, you are implement, as said by Florent before, you are making some technological disruptions. All of that are leading to making savings as well. So it's an additional element of language that you can use beyond just creating value for society and the environment.
Thank you, Sandrine. Gillian, I'm turning to you back. So how can the Chamber help foster mutual understanding and co-creation between French investors and Brazilian stakeholders?
Alors,
I want to come back to what Alexandre was saying also, that there is a strong Team France here in Brazil that really is here to foster this relationship, and that is really working hand in hand. And I think that is very important to underline, because I know in some countries it's not like that. And here it's very strong, and
the council is super happy to hear that. You can't see him, but he's smiling so much about that.
And we are here to help French companies. Just to remind you also one figure that is really important, that France, Europe and France is a second investor in Brazil after USA. So I think it's important. We have 1,300 French companies here, so that's why it's very important to foster these relationships. The Chamber of Commerce in São Paulo is investing a lot in this topic of sustainability, but this year was a peculiar year, and we had a specific agenda named Road to COP, and we launched several initiatives. We create a ESG platform on our website, so I invite you to look at it, because it's very interactive. There's a lot of best practice of all our members, but also speaking about companies that are doing interesting projects. We have a specific commission, a working group that is all along the year gathering members to discuss about these topics regarding sustainability. Once a year we had a forum on bioeconomy, and this year it was our fourth one. There was also Business France and AFD participating to it, and it was very interesting. Why it's important for us, because during this forum we give a floor and voice to some startups, to some members that are part of this ecosystem, trying to help on deforestation topics. The consul mentioned Morpho, there is also Canopé, there is also Dia da Terra, and they are really doing tremendous things for this sustainability topic, so I think it's important to underline it. We mentioned also Fundação Amazônia Sustentável. Alexandre mentioned it, that they are protecting Amazonia forest and helping the local community also to take their future in hand, and I think it's important to give, as you were saying also, voice to these people, because it's their future, and we should not forget it. We are also doing some training programs for leaders to help them launching ESG strategy in their companies. We will launch next week with ADEME a program to develop
ADEME, it's the national company for ecological transition in energy in France.
Exactly. And a specific methodology named Accelerate Climate Transition, ACT, especially to help people fix their KPIs, and not only to fix KPIs, but to reach KPI, because most of the time we give us some targets, but if we don't have a plan to reach the target, it's not working. Some of our board members are part of other groups. I mentioned Rafael Segreira was co-chairing a workshop in the SB COP30, and that is very important because they will make a restitution of best practice on several topics for this COP. And we have also Béatrice Mayence, that is inside French Tech, is also working with startups that are working in avoiding deforestation. So they are very interesting program of startup based in tech. And we are also organizing debates with institutionals, political personalities. There was a debate organized with Wilson Lima, the governor of das Amazonas, and that was also very interesting because we have several companies, Michelin, Schneider, that are working in this region. So very transversal and very dynamic because these topics are essential for our companies.
Thank you, Julien. So Alexandre, the last question will be for you. In what ways can economic diplomacy help bridge the gap between European and Brazilian sustainability priorities? And you already start to answer this question, but what example from French-Brazilian cooperation has inspired you?
Yes, so on the gap between Brazil and Europe on sustainability issues, I think we have to be careful when we speak about a gap in which way we see it. I think in several fields, Brazil is in advance compared to Europe in sustainability issues. I'm thinking about, for instance, biofuels, where Brazil has had an extremely ambitious politics since the 70s, and now has regulations where you have to have more than 30% biofuel in every car fuel. So that's we don't have in Europe, and I think we can learn from Brazil on certain fields like that one. Exactly the same with SAF aerofuel. So that being said, Europe has had very ambitious regulations in the last years, protecting its industry and trying to raise the global sustainable standards in the world, and that the zero imported deforestation regulation is very strong and has impacts in Brazil. The same way the carbon adjustment mechanism. But I think the idea is to build together the way of cooperating around that, because that's a regulation that exists and that is going to last. And I think we have interest in building opportunities in this context. I think that when President Macron announced 1 billion euros for bioeconomy, the intention is there as well, is to help develop local value chains in the Amazon, to build from what's already happening, to trust local actors such as cooperatives, NGOs working with startups, eventually big companies around some fields like cacao, around fishery, maybe care, but and trying to globally raise the standards that exists here, and actually the French Agency for Development is working within this scope with the project Amabio, which is exactly in this line. So I think we have this gap you're talking about generates plenty of opportunities for cooperation, and so let's work together to build these maybe small cooperation that then we will be able to scale up. But we have to do it now.
A lot of hope this morning. Before giving the floor to question to the audience, I would like to ask you what will be your key message for this COP30, if you have to address to the press, for instance, regarding your organization. So, Gillian, what will be your key message?
I will refer to what Florent Ménégo was saying. I think pragmatism, and the second word I will use is solidarity. So pragmatism, I think we need to capitalize on best practice, but go to concrete actions as fast as possible. and putting in place the necessary regulatory framework, because we need framework. It helps developing what we want to do, but with flexibility to integrate the smallest. That's why I'm also referring to solidarity.
Sandrine?
So almost the same, but I already mentioned that action, 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 and so we need to move forward, and so to create the right coalition in order to move together. It's not a matter of competition, it's a matter of solidarity or partnership in order to make things happening using a disruptive technology, and so engaging every companies, public and private institution, private and public institutions, whatever the size, everyone must be involved, but so we need to deliver in a pragmatic way with simplicity, and sometimes human being has a complexity in mind, so we need to make it simple as possible.
That's the spirit of the SDGs. Engage everyone and leave no one behind. Alexandre?
Yeah, nothing very original to add, but maybe just to the business, the scope is the moment to shine, because it's that the Brazilians have wanted to be very pragmatic, solution-based oriented. So it's the moment to show what the private sector can do, and do it fast.
Taking notes already. So we have time for some questions. Thank you so much, because you have been super efficient on this roundtable. Normally, we have to stop, speakers not to speak more, and you were super sharp when answering the questions. Thank you so much, and the audience have been super listening to all the answer you made. So Maëlys will turn with the mic. So if you have some question, what I can suggest is that you introduce yourself. It would be easier to understand who you are. And we are not answering all the questions one by one, but we will pick up some questions and you will be able to answer, and then we'll be able to take some more questions before the lunch. So has anyone something to share with the speakers, some questions? We have one question, Maëlys, on the front row.
So bonjour, good morning. So I'm Klaus Furman from Michelin here in South America. So we are based in Rio. So you were talking about a lot about cooperation that is key, and it's amazing because COP has nothing to do with cooperation, but it's a little word, COP, and. Could you, maybe one of you, give more examples about the cooperation between companies, between private sector and government? Or I think that those examples could inspire the audience here, maybe.
Thank you, Glossy. So once you are starting to think about your answer, do we have more questions from the audience? Don't be shy. Yes, thank you.
Hello, Sandrine, you mentioned that sustainability is at the heart of your strategy, your business strategy. I think that's not the same for all companies, and I'm just wondering what guidance you might have for how to actually make that from something that's not a cherry on the cake to something that's really embedded.
So one specific question for you, Sandrine, and for the other speakers. How can you align the cooperations, and do you have some best practices to share? And I think the question from Glossy was especially from public and private and NGOs and every kind of cooperation you can talk about. So Sandrine, do you want to be first?
So I can illustrate with an example we are living. So Sanofi is leading an international coalition on decarbonization and the healthcare system. Healthcare system is representing around 5% of CO2 emission in the world, which is huge. 5 is small, but it's absolutely huge. So we are leading this coalition. It's a coalition between pharma companies, but so we are integrating some NGOs, we are integrating some institutions, so WHO as well. International Federation of Hospital, patients associations. So we are working with insurers as well and payers, care providers. So we are working all together in a very structured way, having some different work streams, and so moving forward together, bringing our resources and adding value and skills and competencies in order to build the care of tomorrow, including the impact of environment on the healthcare system. So this is quite successful. We started almost 4 years ago now. We are always the same, and so some other institutions, for example, care regulators, those who are authorizing you to put on the market the medicine, so it's very complex, now want to integrate this coalition as well in order to be part of the journey. So this is one example. It's not a matter of competition, we don't care. We know that there is an issue, we want to deliver, and so to be super pragmatic, delivering framework tools and not pledged.
I can tell you that Paul Hudson, the CEO of Sanofi, has just one word: cooperation, cooperation, cooperation.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you do in your business every day, but I can tell you this is the only word he's using every day. Gillian and Alexandre, do you want to share some examples?
No, I have an example that come to my mind where we are not necessarily part of it, but that I think it's something that Brazil is doing well. It's the Eco Invest framework. I think it's launched by the Minister of Finance. It's part of Fundo Clima, but it's organized to bring international investors, and it will bring them guarantee to cover, for instance, their FX risk, and it's the target is to fight against deforestation. So this is a blending finance system. So I think it's something that was created here in Brazil, and it's a cooperation that is it's work with auctions. So it's fair. You are participating to an auction. So I think it's really a framework that Brazil developed, and that is an example of very interesting cooperation.
Yeah, I think we already give some examples of businesses like Michelin, Schneider. We have a lot of other examples. Engie has plenty of partnerships. But what I want to insist on is that we can help you build these partnerships as well within the embassy. We have these clubs in every sector with the Chamber of Commerce as well. On energy, on reliable cities, we can, and these are spaces where the idea is to bring small businesses, big businesses to meet as well, NGOs and the government. We have very good relations with the Brazilian institutions, but also BNDES as well, which has a lot of funds where they're looking for private promoters, so we're here to help you and make this match if you need.
And maybe I can give an example from the UNGC perspective about living wage. It's an issue for all the company, and sorry, but I have more examples from French company, Michelin, Schneider, L'Oréal, and some of them. And what the Global Compact did is to gather, companies from all over the world, ILO, the International Labour Organization, but also NGOs, to be able to discuss what living wage mean, because you have the official description. I'm sure none of you will be agree with that, and even if you ask ILO, it's not so easy to be sure that the living wage definition from Brazil to Philippines is the same. So they spend a few years to discuss, and then they will be able to have a framework to set up the living wage within the company. And Michelin is one of the French company that implemented the living wage all around the world, meaning that you are able here, Michelin, to provide a proper salary for one family, one couple and 2 children, and to be able to live decently in 1 year. And this is one of good example of cooperation, to be able to act together And it's not only a concept, living wage, it's real for the company. I don't know for you, Sandrine, if you implemented the living wage through Sanofi, I don't know. So maybe you can give a few examples or share.
Yes, we did. So we started 4 years ago, I think now, and so we worked first on our employees across the world. And so using the global compact frameworks and Forward Faster as well, which is a UN Global Compact initiative, which is quite powerful, and so declination in different countries. So we use this framework, we use the targets, and so we adjust according to our cultural implementation. And so we started with our employees, so that's okay, there was no big discrepancies, but so we have to adjust. And so we are starting with our suppliers, which is another story, because we face issues in different countries, because sometimes living wage is higher than the minimum national salary. So in terms of political image, it might be a little bit tricky, and this is why we need to work with other companies in order to be more powerful, with Michelin, for example, and Florent was pushed a lot on that living wage topic in France particularly, but all over the world. So this is where we can work together in order to shape. Shaping is very important.
L'Oréal committed to implement the living wage to all the suppliers first rank until 2030. So that's a challenge, and that's why they need to work with all the NGOs, the Global Compact and ILOs, to be sure that everyone is understanding the same definition of living wage. So we still have time for some more questions. I can't believe you already want to eat. It's just noon.
Good morning, my name is Luc Genet. I'm a consultant in stakeholder management. My question is related to education. We know that in France, a young generation have raised the level of expectations regarding sustainable strategy in companies. My question is, once you implement your strategies in Brazil, how does that fit with employees' expectations? Do you find issues in regard to the level of educations, or do they find your employees that the French company strategies regarding the sustainable strategy fast enough or not?
I also understand the question, how does the Brazilian people perceive sustainable issues? I don't know the numbers in Brazil, but we had a survey at the European level in 16 countries, and 80% of all the European citizens want more sustainability, and 85% are asking for more regulation. And 70% think that companies have a key role to play in the sustainability issue. So it's interesting to see that in Europe, I know we have a lot of discussion about regulation. Are the regulation too high, too fast, whatever, we can have discussion about. But citizens in EU want more sustainable answers. So maybe, Gillian, how the Brazilian people perceive that here, and the young generation.
I'm not going to speak for the whole population. I'm just going to humbly mention share my experience as CEO of an entity of 150 colleagues, and comparing to what I have known in Europe. What are the topics that, according to me, young generation and people are taking more interest for are all the diversity and DNA topics, and I think it's important, and they are really paying attention to that. Regarding environmental topics, I think that the conscience is a bit lower that we can have in Europe, and that's why I was mentioning before at the beginning of the discussion the importance of training and speaking about these topics and what are at stake. I think that there is space for progress on these environmental topics mainly in the young generation in Brazil compared to the one in Europe.
Sandrine, you want to answer?
Yes, so I think that, so I concur with what you said. So before I mentioned that with our sustainability strategy, we want to create value for the business. And so I just would like to say value is not just economic value. It's about attractiveness of young generation talents, retention. It's about trust, confidence from investors, from stakeholders, patients, healthcare professionals as well. And so more and more we are seeing young generation asking questions about the sustainability strategy within the company. And depending on countries, it is different. In Brazil or in Latin America on the whole, it's more about diversity, equity, and inclusion. In Europe, it's more about environment and climate particularly, but not only, and flexible work. Because more and more young generation don't want to spend hours at the office or in the plant, manufacturing and so on, but having a right balance between professional and private life. So depending on the countries we are in, China, it's other topic. It's more, or Japan, it's more about the attractivity on volunteering, missions, and so on. So it depends on the culture, it depends on geographies, but on the whole, sustainability has a huge impact on young generation, and they are more and more pushing us to do more.
Alexandre, you want to give the last word?
Yeah, I really don't have an expertise on this field. I'm sorry, but I just use that here it's a hyper-connected generation, even more than it depends. So I think you have to be careful even more on communication, and don't take too much risk.
Okay, thank you so much. So it seems there is no more question, and that in Brazil you start lunch at noon, but you will have to wait more than 10 minutes because it will open in 10 minutes, so sorry for that. So we will have time to take some pictures with the speakers, and you will have time for a break for 10 minutes to breathe outside, and then we will come back here at 2 p.m. for the next roundtable. So don't escape and come back at 2 for the second roundtable, please. It will be also a very nice roundtable. And thank you so much to all of you. Thank you for your answers.
It's a pleasure.